My name's Jill Rowe, and in this episode of the Different Podcast, I talk with Steve Chalke about how to become a person who is trusted by others. Trust takes a long time, and it's all built on the foundation of good relationship. We explore how trust is like money in the bank that we accrue and can spend. And most significantly, we recognise that becoming a trustworthy person means being authentic, doing what we say we will do, being rooted and motivated by values centred on love and goodness and never self-interest. Trust is sacred and needs to be handled accordingly. The purpose of trust is to see goodness come in the world. Hello again, Steve. Good to see you.
And really good to see you as well, Jill.
Brilliant. Thank you.
I mean, it really is. I said that as though I was kind of like just saying it as a response, but it is always great to see you. It's a joy to me. It honestly is. You are better than spending time on a Teams call, which isn't saying much.
I was going to say, wow, there's a bar. You played with Lego when you were little.
I did.
Yeah, the old-fashioned stuff.
The old-fashioned stuff, because it only came as bricks then.
Yeah.
You could have a single or a double, probably a triple or all the rest of it.
My brother, we used to, because he's the brother I've got who's 3 years older than me, we used to leave him in, you could do this back in the day, in department stores, which also used to exist. It was like the shop online, all in one building. You could leave your child with, I can't believe it was allowed, but basically there would be massive tubs of Lego bricks.
Yeah.
And there'd be like a competition and you could leave kids there. And we used to leave my brother playing with Lego in these big department stores, and then you go off and do your shopping and come back and still there playing with Lego.
Built something wonderful.
But he always said, he was really good with Lego. But he always said to me, Joe, you have to remember, you always have to start with the building base, the green base or the grey base.
Yeah, the green or grey. They still do those, of course, green and grey.
But that's the most important thing, right? The foundation, the base of it. And I've been thinking about trust, okay? And I think that trust is like the green or grey base. It's on that foundation that everything else gets built in terms of your impact and your influence and your ability to show up well in the world. I was talking to some members of staff recently. I was helping train them with some leadership and stuff, and all the rest of it. And someone said, they should respect us. We're their boss. And I was like, it doesn't quite work like that. You earn respect.
They should know is that half the world hates their bosses.
Well, exactly.
That's the truth, isn't it?
But you don't just you earn being trusted. You earn being respected, don't you? So it's the foundation on which everything else happens. So how do you think, Steve, that a person can become a person who is trusted by others?
Well, I think that, the first thing I'd say is this. Trust takes a long time to build.
Really doesn't it?
In fact, just today I was talking to somebody earlier. I was talking to some people earlier, actually, on a Teams call. It's true, and I was just. It was about somebody moving into a new community to set up some projects and things. And I said, my advice to you would be, to move into the community and don't set up anything for the first 6 months. I said, just hang around with people, go down the local pub, get to know people, stand by the school gates, or, whatever you like to do. Go watch the football on a Saturday on the playing field. Get to know people, build friendships with them. And then when you come to setting up your new project, first two things will happen. First of all, as you begin to chat with them over a drink or whatever, or over a meal, you'll find that your project gets better and gets changed because you'll adapt and it become more contextually relevant. And two, then as you talk to people and get the project sorted, others will begin to work with you, and they do the work not only with you but for you, which is the best thing, because you would have built trust.
Yeah.
But go in there with the smartest idea in the world but no relationships, and you're not going to get very far. So trust takes a long time to build. My little metaphor for it in my own head is I always say that trust is like money in the bank.
Yeah.
Takes a long time to collect, and then when you've got it, you can just hoard it, which is no good at all. You know, some people say, everyone around here trusts me. Well, use the trust for something. You spend it wisely. And every good leader, I think, needs to build trust and then spend trust, and sometimes even get slightly into the red, because your job is to push people a little bit, but then know when to stop pushing.
Yeah, because there's a line there, isn't there, between spending it and abusing it.
Yeah, and then you've got to know when you've run out of money in the bank, and then you've got to rebuild it through delivering on what you ask people to trust you with. And if you deliver on what you ask people to trust you with, you'll find you got a lot more stock in the bank than you ever could have imagined to start off. It builds slowly, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah. Can you think of, are there times when you've known, actually, I need to stop spending this trust. I actually need to. I
think, but for me, I mean, there's dozens of examples, hundreds probably. I know two things. If you're going to lead people, you've got to push them into unknown territory. You've got to push them on. So it's exciting and daunting. Not too daunting. Yeah. Exciting and daunting. You've got to push them on. But in pushing them on and saying we can get to this promised land, whatever it is, you have to have their trust, and you are spending their trust. So you need to deliver. And as you deliver on that promise and you achieve that little goal with a group of people, then I always say to people, you probably heard me say, you've got to slack off a bit. You can't say, right, we're there. Now it's the next mountain. And now it's the next mountain. And now it's the next mountain. You've got to push people uphill and then let things, as that goal's achieved, celebrate. Celebrate for, not just in the moment, but a few months. And then say, hey, I've got this idea. Yeah. And you'll find that the more success and trust you've built in the first mountain you've climbed, the more trust there'll be for the second mountain, as long as you're not abusing people, as long as you're seeing what they put in and you're giving them credit for that.
Yeah, yeah. I suppose that's all really true when you're trying to achieve like a goal, you're driving a project and all the rest of it. But it just in terms of being a person that people trust.
Yeah, like, same thing.
There's a thing about you, that you do what you say you're going to do and being reliable, isn't there? But there's something also about being authentic. Because if I think I'm being played by someone, then I won't trust them.
No.
Does that make...
Yeah, of course.
So, and some of that is to do with, like, I have quite a keen radar on people who aren't trustworthy. I think just out of my story of my dad leaving and all the rest of it, I've got quite a BS radar that if someone, I think their motivation isn't right, if I think they're just in like using it to try and get something that they need. Whereas if someone is being authentic and they're not playing you. I can tell.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head as far as I'm concerned, because you've used that other word, trustworthiness.
Yeah.
And so we all want to be trusted.
You've got to be trustworthy.
Isn't how much do you trust me? It's how trustworthy am I?
Yeah.
So have I delivered on what I made a commitment to do? If I promised to phone you, or send you some stuff, or write to you, or visit you, or said, why don't we go out for a meal? Then if I follow through on that and I make that thing happen, or I deliver that thing happen, I make that call. If I say, I'll introduce you to so-and-so because I think they can help you. If I actually introduce you to them, then I become a trustworthy person. and you see that I have authenticity. If I make loads of rash promises and don't deliver on any of them, then you don't feel like that. So I always think, if you say you're going to phone someone tomorrow, phone them. And of course, there are some times when life explodes and everything goes wrong and we can't do what we said. But then text them and say, you know, I'm really sorry, but this happened. Don't just leave it as a silence. But if you're delivering most of the time, we all screw up. We all make mistakes and stuff happens that means we can't fulfill some promises, whatever they might be. But if you say, I'll meet you at 8, try to be there at 8. And if you're not going to be there till 8:30, text them or phone them and say, and all of that makes you trustworthy.
Yeah, because it's that, you know, that the original meaning of the word trust, and it's truth, isn't it? Is having confidence in. So for me, that thing of, am I confident in this person that is what? And it's just interesting when you think about it like that, where there's a little thought in your head like, am I confident they're actually going to do what they've just said? You know, and it really shows up, doesn't it, then, in the workplace, for example? And
yes, it does. So is a good illustration of it, because trust is built slowly, as we've been saying, and so you can't assume that people would trust you. Why on earth should they? That's just called stupidity.
Yeah.
Actually. So I remember years and years ago, I probably told you this story before, but this is to tell it from a different angle. At the beginning of Oasis, actually, before the beginning of Oasis, I left my job and I wanted to set up a house for young women, young people who were homeless, who'd been abused, who, you know, et cetera, who'd been exploited, molested, neglected. And I knew I needed to do this in Peckham, which is in the borough of Southwark. And so one day I went to see the head of housing for Southwark Council, and I explained that I wanted to come and I wanted to set up this hostel, this safe house, et cetera. And he listened to me, and then he said, well, we don't want your type round here. Have I told you this story?
Yeah.
He said,
I know.
He said, and there are 3 things I've got against you. You're a Christian, you're the wrong kind of Christian. And the third one, because I didn't think there was anything else, he said, and you're a Christian minister. You will never do this except over my dead body. Well, we did do it. You know, it took a long time, but we did do it, and we did open that hostel, and that's where Oasis got its name.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because my wife said, you know, this is like creating an oasis for the people that live here. So we set up a charity called Oasis to run it. Well, the point is that years and years later, I mean about 25 or 25 years later at least, a quarter of a century, the person then in the job, I don't know what happened to the guy who said, over my dead body. I'm sure it was, you know, he retired or whatever. But the person then in the job, I was at an event in Southwark, and they said to me, do you know that hostel you run's fantastic? It's much better than any of the ones we run, because you get such greater results. So I said, oh, thank you. That's really kind of you to say. So, and then about another 10 years after that, Southwark Council asked us if we'd run all of the supported housing in the borough for over 16-year-olds, which is what we do. Yeah. And that's what we do now. Do you know? And there's one way of telling the story, which is, you know, that bloke.
What an idiot.
What an idiot. I proved him wrong.
Yeah.
Or we proved him wrong. But there's another way of telling the story, which is actually, it takes a long time to build trustworthiness. Why should that guy have trusted me when I, at the age of 29, waltzed into there and go, we're going to set this up? I mean, he must, you know, he'd have been mad.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. But over those 3 decades or whatever, we slowly built a sense of trustworthiness. Yeah. We delivered, and that changed it all. So my old way of talking about the story was what a jerk that guy was. Yeah. But my deeper reflection is what a jerk I was to believe that he was going to trust us with something when he didn't know me from Adam.
Yeah. There's something in there as well, isn't there? Often that, you know, well, it is a sad thing, but often the church can posture itself a little bit like that, kind of, well, you know, we should be doing, like why aren't we being included in that? Why aren't we, you know, and you earn trust by doing
the
work, by being in the mix, by...
Exactly, by delivering. And I have found, some people ask me, Joe, when am I going to retire?
Which I know the answer to this is never, so...
But, I get asked that question about...
A lot.
I mean, like incessantly every week. Do you know? And what I say is this, what I genuinely think is this. It's not that I have a desire to constantly work. But what I have genuinely noticed is that the opportunities I get at my age are greater than the opportunities I got 10 years ago or 10 years before that or 10 years before that or 10 years before that. If only I could have got the opportunities I get given now when I first started Oasis. But right then, when I wrote out about this hostel we were going to set up, no one responded. No one supported us. No one gave us any money. There was nothing going, Now, I often think, God, if I could have been invited into things at the age of 29, as I am now, it would have been wonderful. But it takes all that time to build those relationships.
It would have been an ill-fitting thing, wouldn't it? You wouldn't have managed it right, Steve. You wouldn't have, it could have done anything to you, couldn't it? If you're given too much too soon. You don't grow, you don't become wise.
Yeah, they are.
Which creates the trust, being trustworthy.
Yeah, the funny thing is, a couple of months ago, a friend of mine who I've known the entire time that I've begun Oasis and led it, he rang me up and he said, I've got this big house. Would you like it? Actually, we're going to set up a children's home there. It's a wonderful house out in the country. And the funny thing is, I think when I was 29, he knew me then, and I was fighting to get this first thing going. Why didn't he come along and say, I got a wonderful house you can have? Well, the truth is he didn't have it either then. But even if he had have had it, he'd have never given it to me. And of course, he's given it to Oasis, really, but it's on the back of 50 years of friendship, I suppose.
Yeah, but there's all the wisdom that you've learned in those years. It's not just, it's the wisdom of experience, isn't it? That being seen by others as trustworthy, I think, is so much about wisdom.
Yeah, and about constantly showing up, and when you screw up, telling people because that's the authenticity. I
got it wrong. Yeah, I didn't do that right. But you're someone who's learnt the lessons of life, and so you don't turn up lording it over people.
No. I've got this little, what would you say it is?
It's a formula.
Yeah, it's a little formula. That's a very good word for it. It's a little formula that I wrote into the book that I wrote a couple of years ago. Yeah, well, I wrote a book called Trust a long, long time ago.
It's on my bookshelf.
Oh, really? Yeah. And then I wrote a book a couple of years ago, perhaps 3 years ago now, I can't remember, called Manifesto for Hope. Yeah. And I rewrote this formula, this little equation into it. And the equation is T equals, to make it look smart. And
to make it look
mathematical, to make me look a bit like Einstein. Joke. I wrote down T equals C plus D plus R divided by S, which sounds very impressive. Very impressive and intelligent. Of course, it's not, really. So T stands for trust. So to say it again, the C stands for credibility, the D stands for dependability, the R stands for relationship, all over divided by self-interest. So the formula is trust is the result of, is equal to credibility, you know what you're doing, plus dependability, you actually deliver rather than promise and don't, plus relationship. It's got to be done in relationship. But all that gets divided by self-interest. If people think you're in it for you, that negates everything else.
Yeah.
It negates your credibility, except what you achieve. But when people know that you're delivering it for the common good, for others, for a great outcome for the community, or for the club, or whatever it is you're part of, that if you've got the credibility and the dependability and the relationship, and people know it's not for you.
Yeah. I think that, when I said earlier I've got a bit of a BS radar around it, I think that's the thing that I see. Is this self-interest? Because if it is self-interest, then it's like a manipulative thing, isn't it? But like you say, if that motivation that's in there is about wanting the very best for others, wanting to see what you just use that phrase, the common good, to see peace, to see community, to see inclusion, then you're like, trust this. But if it's about, like you say, self-interest, whoa.
Yeah, absolutely. I also think there's another element to this, I should say. Building trust isn't about pleasing everyone.
No.
You build trust not just by going along with the crowd, and if they're all moaning about the state of the village green, moaning about it too, or the council or whatever. You build trust by saying, in that context, we could do something about this. I've got an idea about this. Why don't we organise this? Why don't we create, I'm making this up, I've never done this. Why don't we create a pond?
Yeah.
Perhaps creating a pond is a bad thing because everybody chucks their litter in it, But do you
Bikes, litter.
Yeah. Why don't we do this? Why don't we, there's nothing going on in the community for young people at the weekend. Why don't we start a bike club? Why don't we start a football club? Why don't we start a running club? I've done all those things, And so, and then they go, oh, you couldn't start. Well, I started one of those park runs.
Yeah.
And, you couldn't do it here. And so you expect people to, and no one's going to turn out, and they're not going to volunteer, because you have to have quite a lot of volunteers to run one of these things. No one's going to do that. And I say, yeah, they will. And darn well they go away and moan about you. Who does he think he is? What a stupid idea. That's never going to work. That'll never come off. But in actual fact, the park run that I kind of pushed, it's been operational for about 5 years now, and they get hundreds of people every Saturday, even in the middle of the winter, and it's by the sea.
Crazy fools.
So my point is that leading people, to lead people, you've got to build trust, but trust isn't just agreeing with everyone all the time. No, it's setting a course, and then people see, he, in my case, her in your case, she actually delivers on what she talks about, whether it's a small thing like I'll pop round and see you, or a big thing like I'll write this plan for our project. You deliver, and slowly people will come to trust you through that, but not because they agreed with you all the time. And to lead isn't about everybody liking you, inverted commas, all the time. It is about leading, and when you lead, that builds trust.
Yeah, and just to open it out into kind of from a slightly different angle, I think my respect and trust is much greater for people who are prepared to have difficult conversations, challenging conversations, necessary conversations, for example, in the world of a workplace, than it is for those that don't.
Yes.
Because that shows me that they're not stepping away from what's tricky. They're not stepping away from what's difficult and needs to be talked about. So, you can trust them because they don't have the conversation there and then have a completely different conversation over here. Like, there's authenticity, there's alignment to who they are, their values, everything all lines up. And yeah, I think for me it's exactly the same, Steve, but it just plays out in kind of that workplace relationship. People who you can trust, who are people who are willing to do the hard thing.
Mm. Yeah.
Not like you say, not people please.
No.
Or just agree, oh yeah, no, they're an idiot, and then not do anything about, actually, I probably just need to have a conversation with those people.
Exactly, which is why trust, if you have it, needs to be spent.
Yeah.
Because you're pushing the boat out, you're saying what's not always popular, but you're saying what's true and what's authentic.
Yeah.
And sometimes that means saying, I screwed up, I'm sorry. And I don't think people trust you any the less if you will say, I made a mistake. That was a bad decision. I shouldn't have done it that way. I'm sorry I ignored you, whatever, because we all make mistakes.
Yeah.
So that doesn't destroy trust. What destroys trust is when you don't acknowledge your frailty, your weakness, your lack of judgment, your lack of long-sightedness, etc. I'm always amazed at that, because I screw up on a lot of things. And then I think, well, they still want to work with me. I find that amazing. Yeah. But I've slowly learned that's because you acknowledge the mistake, not because you try to cover it over.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and, here's this thing. We both work for the Oasis Trust.
Yeah.
We kind of trust in our name. Now, sometimes we screw up.
Yep.
Sometimes we make mistakes. But I think people trust you, back to your point, if they know what you're aiming at and they know you put yourself on the line for it all the time, and they know that you might have failed on this occasion, but it wasn't because you didn't bother or you didn't try, and you have delivered on other occasions.
And at the heart of it all, and this is the distinctive, at the heart of it all is a motivation to see others thrive and to see good come and to see people's lives changed. That's the purpose of trust, is to create good in the world.
Yeah, and I think that what then happens, because, across my life I've seen that people who trust you because of what you have offered to them in terms of opportunity, etc., then become your spokespeople, your champions. They create trust for you because they tell the story, their story of what happened to them. And that's partly why the trust accelerates, doesn't it? And more opportunity comes to you the longer you stick at it. So I suppose a word that we've not used in this conversation thus far is longevity. It's about being there for the long term. I was talking earlier to some people on the phone about trust and projects, and I got to mentioning, how it happens. This wasn't a church, but I said it happens in a church. The new vicar shows up, and they stand up in the pulpit or wherever they're going to stand, and they announce their vision and all the great ways in which this church is going to grow and it's going to be spectacular. And the people are sat there in the pews or on the chairs, and they go, oh, no, not again, because they had the last guy and the person before that and the person before that. They suspect that in 5 years' time, when you get a bigger job or when it goes a bit wrong or when it's hard, you'll resign and go off and get another job. They need to know that you are there. It's longevity. When I came to work, in my spare time, it was at what was called Christ Church and Upton Chapel, which nowadays is called Oasis Church, Waterloo. There were very few people in it, 10 or so people, mostly elderly, and they'd used to having ministers, church leaders come and go, and I announced my plan for some of the things I thought we should be doing together, and somebody called Joyce came up.
Wonderful Joyce.
She came up to me and she barked at me. She'd been in the church for 45 years. She barked at me and she said, "When are you leaving?" I'll never forget that. And I kind of rather immaturely barked back at her. And I said, "Never." But the funny thing is, she said, okay, that's all right then.
Yeah.
If you're not leaving, you can do what you like. Because I was suggesting we change the building round a bit.
Yeah.
She said, if you're not leaving, you can do it. I just need to know you're not leaving. I'm holding that to you.
Yeah.
I'm holding you to that, I should say. And I realised that's the longevity thing.
Yeah.
Joyce had been in this community long enough to know that people came with their smart ideas just before they left. And she needed to know that I was going to stick with it. Trust is built on sticking with it and being authentic.
Thank you, Steve.